Prior to May, you'd have to go back to the days of Kevin White and Ray Flynn to find a mayoral advisor who'd been indicted. Now it's happened twice in as many months to Mayor Marty Walsh. This man, Timothy Sullivan, a top Walsh advisor, is the second high-ranking official to now be facing a federal indictment. He follows another member of Walsh's executive team, Ken Brissett, who was similarly charged last month with extorting promoters of Boston Calling, an annual music festival. Today's indictment out of the U.S. Attorney's Office charges that both men were part of a plan to withhold permits from the concert's promoters unless union workers were hired for the show, even though they weren't needed. This investigation is on top of what's been a tough couple of months for Walsh, the sudden resignation of the headmaster of Boston Latin School after a series of racial problems at the esteemed exam school. Walsh was a champion of IndyCar Boston, a proposed road race through the seaport that stalled and has left many ticket holders without refunds and is being investigated by Attorney General Maura Healey. And the mayor, of course, was a champion of the effort to bring the Olympics here, another idea that got nowhere fast. This morning, the mayor was peppered with questions as he tried to make a routine appearance in the North End.
We don't encourage people to use union labor. There's a process in place that we have 800 events a year in the city of Boston, and the topic of union labor should never come up, and to my knowledge, it hasn't.
Are you prepared now to answer whether or not you've been before a grand jury?
Again, I have no comment on that because there's an investigation, as you can clearly see, that's happening, so I'm going to continue to see what happens with the investigation. I've offered to work very cooperatively with the United States Attorney's Office and to get into the bottom of this, whatever's going on here.
Did you plead the Fifth Amendment?
Did you see this coming?
No, I didn't, but there was the indictment a month ago. There was an unnamed name in that indictment, and I'm assuming that this was the unnamed name.
So do you think this is the end of it?
I hope so.
We invited the mayor to come today, and a spokesman told us his schedule was full. Joining me to examine what all this means for Walsh's ability to lead the city are Lydia Edwards, workers' rights attorney, former candidate for state senate. Lydia, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Brad Bailey, former state and federal prosecuting attorney. Good to see you. Brad. Kevin Peterson, founder of the New Democracy Coalition, an organization which focuses on voter engagement. Let me start with you, Kevin. He's not accused of any wrongdoing, unlike his two staffers who have been. What effect does this have on Marty Walsh and his administration?
Well, it looks bad politically. Of course, anybody can be indicted. It's easy to do that. But the things are sort of piling up.
Well, I don't know how easy it is to do that. But I mean, but go ahead. But let's be clear, he has been accused of no wrongdoing.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any personal corruption on his end, but I think that it's looking like there may be corruption within the administration, and that's going to hurt him long-term politically, particularly as he gears up for re-election next year. You know,
Brad, you've obviously been a prosecutor, and you've been on the other side defending some high-profile people accused of corruption charges. In the indictment today, and I'm just going to read you a part, it says, defendants Brissett and Sullivan, together with others, known and unknown to the grand jury, conspired to obstruct, delay, et cetera, and they go on extortion. That would suggest pretty openly that this is not the end of the game, that there are two down and there are more to come, yes?
Well, certainly anytime you're looking at the inner circle of any political organization or group, people are going to start looking around, seeing who may be next. That's possible. But also, Jim, the feds are masters at taking unindicted co-conspirators and expanding the rules of evidence by claiming other people are involved in order to get an evidence that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. So that's some of what's going on there.
You know, you're a workers' rights lawyer. They were trying to help workers, allegedly, unionize workers in this case. He's a union guy. Marty Walsh said he did nothing wrong. So is it fair to visit political troubles on him for what his staff people allegedly did, or no?
I don't think it's fair at all, actually. I think what I'm confused about what the there is. It seems to be very little there.
What do you mean, what they allegedly did?
Well, what they allegedly did is what exactly? Get 8 people union jobs.
And said you're not going to get permits to do business in this community unless you hire those people who you don't need. That's what the charge is.
Well, that's what the charges are. But if you look at it in terms of workers' rights and an advocate and in terms of what the city and Boston should do, when it comes to negotiating and looking at contracts, I want to know that my mayor is sitting there and assuring that people are having a chance and a shot at good wages.
Chance or saying cross. You know, it's one. There's an alleged wiretap. The mayor has told us on the radio
from 2012 when he was not a mayor.
And and he's not. He says he's not even sure if he was wiretapped. He doesn't know what he says. In that alleged wiretap, what he says to a developer once built in Boston, you should hire union people in Somerville. I'm paraphrasing. If you don't, you're going to have trouble in Boston. That's a statement of fact. I don't know if that's a crime. I don't think it's a crime
But,
at
yeah,
all.
I think that was
That
his
was when
job
he
then,
was-
though, at that
when he-
point,
But
too.
whether it's his job at all, I mean, I don't think it crosses a line.
Right.
You seem to not think it crosses a line if these two people said no union workers, no permits? You don't think that's a crime?
I didn't say that.
What are you
but
saying?
I said I don't see that they're there, that this is a criminal issue right now when I see 8 people getting a job, supposedly, on a city contract.
Do you think it's a crime? I mean, on its face.
That's what
Again, it's not
I mean.
proven.
That's what the allegations are. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's correct.
The problem that the defendants are facing is that Hobbs Act extortion is very easy in terms of the elements. It's depriving another of property, extortionate acts affecting interstate commerce, and acting under the color of right as a governmental official to deprive another of a property. I mean, that's not a lot in terms of proof beyond a reasonable
See, I
doubt.
don't think, there may be a there, or there may not be a there. For me, that's not the point.
What is the point?
The point is that if these things may have happened and they're coming to the public venue, he has to own that, politically at least. He may not be corrupt. His administration may not be corrupt, but certainly the waters are troubled. There's a stench
Right.
within the administration
Well,
at this
I
point,
think
and he has to own the stench.
Right, but I think he has owned it, and he said he's opened himself up to any kind of investigation to see what's going on within, and he does not want to be seen as the person who's holding anyone's feet
But
to
wait
the
a
fire.
second, Lydia, he won't answer any questions.
He won't
was
answer any
asking in
He
that
said he
little
opened
press
himself and his
availability.
administration
Did you get a
to
subpoena?
investigate.
I won't tell you. Did you testify in front of a grand jury? I've asked him too. I won't tell you. Will you release the documents that the Globe has requested? No, we won't release those either. Now, in all
He's gonna
fairness,
comply
a
with
judge
the
has said he doesn't
investigation.
have to.
Well, and he's also going to comply with the investigation, and he's looking for and trying to assure that his administration is as open and as accessible
Well,
without
he needs to act that
exposing
way.
them
He hasn't
to
been
any.
acting that way.
Well,
Just as we were sort of engaging with the mayor around the BLS issue.
Boston
he was,
Latin.
the Boston Latin. He was defensive then and cagey then. He's as cagey about this issue as he has
In
been.
defense, we've talked to him a lot about Boston Latin on the radio and here, and I have no idea if this is true or not. He asserts he didn't know about these things when they were being reported to the headmaster. He said as soon as he did hear about them, he acted. And again, I don't know where the truth lies there.
Jim, the other thing about the feds is they're masters at bringing pressure to bear, and these guys are facing up to 20 years.
I mean, for
And
them to
that's-
flip
and that's a
potentially
huge
against the higher
incentive.
up.
So you never know what that's going to yield or whether or not people are going to start talking further because of this. Who knows?
You know, staying away from the legal for a second and what the implications are, the political situation in Boston is amazing to me. And by the way, I want to be clear up front. The questions I'm going to ask you have nothing to do with me making a judgment on Marty Walsh, pro and con. I've lived in Philadelphia. You're a Philly kid, I just found out. I've lived in New York. I have never, if a mayor goes cross-eyed, there are 14 people criticizing him. The Olympics was a fiasco. The IndyCar thing that he championed, a fiasco. He is being, his administration is being investigated by the U.S. Attorney, 2 indictments. The Boston Latin situation, there's barely a peep in this city about anything. I'm not talking about anybody running against him. That's in the future. You organize people. Are you surprised there's been virtual silence? A little here, you wrote a piece, for example, Darnell Williams in Commonwealth Magazine, which I read, but there's almost silence in the city when the mayor is having some really rough times.
Well, I think Mayor Menino sort of set that precedent. I think he kept things
But he's not Mayor Menino. He's been there a couple of years.
But I think there is more rumbling under Mayor Walsh than under
Where is it?
previous. Well, it's in the grassroots.
Are people scared of him? Is that what you think it
I think
is?
people are used to dealing with that office quietly, diplomatically. But I think that there is politically, metaphorically, blood on the floor. And that Walsh is going to have to either do something dramatic to respond to these issues, or he's going to suffer politically.
Do you think there's upset? Do you hear it out there with men? I mean, by the way, I should say, I'll speak from, I really like the guy a lot.
I do too.
No,
And
I
I
do
think
too.
a lot of people do. Most
Yeah,
people do.
no.
But do you hear people saying, I don't like what happened at Boston Latin. He's the mayor. There's an appointed school committee. He's the elected guy. I don't like this union investigation. I don't like these indictments. I don't hear anybody saying anything.
No, I don't hear that because I think people like Marty Walsh. I do believe.
So it
they
doesn't
believe
matter
in
what
him.
you do if
it's
they
not
like
a matter
you?
of not mattering what you do. I think they believe in him, and I think they believe that he fights for them. And as long as you believe that, they're willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I personally know, for example, Tim Sullivan. I'm willing to give him the
I know
benefit
him
of the
pretty
doubt.
well for a
right?
long time when he was the
And
AFL-CIO.
I think a lot of folks want to see more there before they make a judgment.
If you were Marty Walsh, would you be nervous today?
Well, only Marty knows whether he needs to be nervous or not, so I can't really answer that question for him. But yeah, I think that
But
in
you know, you
terms
have a
of
pretty aggressive U.S. attorney.
Yeah, and a U.S. attorney who will be pressuring people. I think in terms of his legacy, sure. But one point, Jim, is that we have had so much of this in the last decade in terms of public corruption investigations that on one level, it's almost yawn-inducing to some of the public.
Well, on the state
we're
level,
seeing
Tom
this
Menino
all
had
the
none of
time.
this in 20 years. There was not one official indicted in 20 years. So in terms of the mayor's office, as I said, you have to go back to Joe Fisher, who worked for Ray Flynn in 1996. In the mayor's office, this is almost unheard of.
Right, and then whether it's yawn-inducing or whether it's business as usual, who knows whether that's playing into a little of this? We don't know.
We got to go. Lydia, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much, Fred. Good to
Thanks,
see
sir.
you. Kevin, be well.
Cool.
Thanks so much.